Hey, praise the Lord, guys. My name is Straw Greenhorn. Then came the Pharisees and the Sadducees unto Jesus, tempting him, desiring of him a sign from heaven. Now he answered and said unto them, when it is evening and the sky is red, you say the weather will be great. But when it is morning, you say the weather will be foul, because the sky is red and lowering. You hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but you can't discern the signs of the times. And this wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, but no sign shall be given it, except the sign of Jonah the prophet. And when he had said these things, he departed thence. So here we see Pharisees and Sadducees coming unto Jesus, desiring of him a sign from heaven. Now, these people must have been very ridiculous, because they come unto him asking of him a sign, when everything that he had been doing up until this point was the sign. That just goes to show you that with some people, no matter what you do, you'll never change their mind. When he was on the cross, they even said, come down and then we will believe you. Come down and then we will believe you. And not believing you when you brought back Lazarus from the dead. When that man had his daughter lay at home and she was dead, when they laughed him to scorn and he brought her back to life. Not when he opened the eyes of the blind, not when he made the deaf to hear. No, it's not any of these things is going to be the sign from heaven, but when you come down from the cross. In life, even with life, you come across people, and no matter what you do, they just won't like you. And it's just to learn from this example, because no matter what he did, they didn't like him. No matter what he did, they wouldn't receive him. And he actually gave the answer that it was a deeper issue that was going on. It was that the spirit that was in him was at war with the spirit that was in them. So even though they couldn't consciously realize and understand this fact, it prevented them from crossing over and giving him the respect and admiration and love and worship that he deserved. So this scripture starts off by saying, then came the Pharisees and Sadducees unto Jesus, tempting him, desiring of him a sign from heaven. So now, sometimes, why it says that they were tempting him. It's because it's asking and doing something that you're not supposed to do, to see if you could get away with it. Or doing something that's even disrespectful. Tempting him was asking him to prove himself to them, when everything that he has been doing up until this point was the proof. You see, people like these, it's just naysayers, and I would call them incomplete. They don't know who they are. They don't know what they're about. So when they see somebody who knows what they're about, instead of learning from them and evolving, they rather try and hold them back, just so that they don't get too far, so that they don't outdo them, so that they don't outperform them. And people like these are really sad, because show us a sign from heaven, tempting him. All right, so then he goes on to say, when it is evening and the sky is red, you know that the weather will be great. But when it is morning and the sky is red and lowering, then the weather will be foul. So he actually gives them a literal answer and a figurative answer. He gives both kind of answers, because they come tempting, asking of him a sign from heaven, and he gives them a literal sign of the face of the sky, which also has a metaphorical meaning of the signs of the times. So this answer was actually 2 in 1. So he says that, you guys have paid such attention to the sky that you could tell how the weather is going to be just by how it looks, by the color, by the cloudiness, by everything that you guys have learned to observe, and you guys are pretty accurate with it. So then how comes it is that you are unable to discern the signs of the times, what we're living in? Because it would make more sense for you to understand the signs of the times, worse you guys being religious leaders, that the temple and all its businesses and matters, it was committed into your hands. Are you telling me that you can do the weatherman's job better than he can do, but you can't do your own? So the beauty behind this answer is twofold. Nothing that God does is ever simple, and it's up to us to search for the deep meaning. And that's why he says, study to show thyself approved, a workman unto God, needed not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. There's a lot of digging in this word, because when you look at it the first time, you will see this, but then when you look at it again, you see something else. And the more you dig, the more you can learn and understand, because you guys have become such expert at the sky. You can look at the sky and say it's going to be good weather or bad weather, depending on the appearance, because you have paid such great attention to the sky, which is not really anything really. You pay such attention to the sky, but then you miss the things that you should be looking at. And that's another way when he said that you strain at a gnat and swallow a camel. Straining at a gnat, compared, what's a gnat to a camel? A gnat is very small, it's a fruit fly, and a camel is very huge, but you pay such attention to the small thing that doesn't really mean anything, while completely missing the camel. And this is another example of that, because you guys are experts at looking at the sky, but look at the signs of the times. Everything that's been prophesied is coming to pass. I am here. Basically what he was saying. All those prophecies in your books that you read in the temple every day, on every Sabbath, I am the manifestation of all these things. But yet still you missed the entire camel while you're stuck looking at the sky. So when they come onto him, tempting him, that also means that no matter what answer he would have given them, they would not have accepted it. They would have sat there and argued with him, refusing to believe, tempting him. No matter what he would have said, they wouldn't have believed. And they would have tried to argue him out of his point and prove him wrong, and then try to convince him that he is wrong, and try to get him to accept that he is wrong and change his mind. And then he said, "Ye hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but you can't discern the signs of the times." Then he goes on to say, "This wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign, but no sign shall be given it, except the sign of Jonah the prophet." They're coming onto him asking for new things, and he's giving them new things. Opening the eyes of the blind. We've never seen that before. In the New Testament, was that ever done? No. The dumb to speak? No. Elijah healed a man with leprosy. The lady that had gave him the room to stay, he blessed her with a son. The son died, and he brought the son back to life. The valley of dry bones, was that Nehemiah? I forget. Brought back a whole army of soldiers to life. The things that they were seeing weren't seen before. They come onto him seeking a sign. What they really want to say is that they want him to sit there and move them throughout their stubbornness. They want him to come there and move them while they hold on to all their disbelief, all their doubts, all their contradicting and resisting him and trying to convince him. It would be like trying to drag a person somewhere that had handcuffed themselves to like a fence or a gate or something, something immovable. That's what they were asking him to do with this. This wicked and adulterous generation seeketh after a sign. You seek after a new sign. You want me to cater to you. You want me to convince you. Bible says, "Blessed is he who believes." Not he who I have to force and drag and convince and persuade while they are trying to change my life and my belief and what I came to do, knowing that I am the Son of God. This generation seeks after a sign, a new sign they want. And they're getting all the newest signs in the world. They'll never believe no matter what you do. They'll never receive it. They'll never rejoice. Because you see, they like to sit there and argue with each other, That's what they do all day, They sit there and argue and prove points and who's right and who's wrong. And that's what they were trying to do with him. They're actually saying, "Come and sit down with us and argue to us why you are right," when he was doing all these miracles and wonders. You can't imagine 5 loaves and 2 fishes feeding 5,000 people with just 5 loaves of bread. That's insane, bro. No sign shall be given it, except the sign of Jonah the prophet. As Jonah was in the belly of the fish, even so shall the Son of Man be in the belly of the earth. He didn't say it in this one, but he said it, in the previous one. It's the second time that he said this now in Matthew. No sign shall be given it, except the sign of Jonah. Because what he was actually saying, that this was not a simplified answer. It was not. Because what he's actually saying, okay, you see, if you're gonna miss all the signs that I'm doing, the signs that you're asking me now to show you, while I've already showed you them, if you're gonna miss all of them, all right, let's pull it back. Let's slow it down so you can understand. Because you're missing all the great signs that I'm giving you. So you know what? Let me dumb it down for you. Because you won't receive any of the new signs that I'm doing. But these things I'm doing, they're all new signs, and you won't receive any of them. So you know what? I believe that he was dumbing it down for them. You know what? Since you won't receive it, in your book that you read in the temple, but you know the story of Jonah. All right, let me give you that sign. Because I'm gonna die and I'm gonna be in the earth for 3 days, then I'm gonna rise, and that's gonna be your sign. Since you refuse to accept any of these other signs that I'm doing, because he wasn't being stingy with his answers, he was not being stingy. But you see, if you're gonna be that stubborn, if you're gonna be that blinded, if you're gonna be that immovable, and there's nothing I can do to convince you, I'm just gonna be wasting my energy trying to argue with you. Let me dumb it down. Jonah, Jonah was in the belly of the fish, right? Well, the same thing is gonna happen to me. End of story. And that's why he told the disciples, shake off the dust of your feet, because when you come across these that come asking for signs and times after you've done shown them everything, there's nothing else you can do for them. Shake off the dust of the feet, because they can't say that, they can't give the example of being in the belly of the fish. That's the Son of Man, that's his prophecy. And when he had said these things, he departed thence. And really, what I'm saying in my spirit, you see, when he would have started explaining himself, they would have looked to disprove him and embarrass him in front of the people. And try to turn the people against him. That's what they were looking to do. Because I can just see them asking with a deceptive face, with a grin, and they'll be watching him, seeing at what point they can interrupt him and contradict what he's saying, and then try to back him into a corner in which he would be unable to argue or reason himself out of. And ultimately, they would want him to say, that you guys are right and I'm wrong. And then lo and behold, Jesus becomes a Pharisee or a scribe or a Sadducee. Jesus the Sadducee. But you gotta understand, Jesus is the boss. When Bill Gates goes to Microsoft, when Jeff Bezos goes to Amazon, When Mark Zuckerberg goes to Facebook, when Elon Musk goes to Tesla, that's their company, that's their place you're working in, that's their place you're walking through. Ain't no challenging for no leadership. My name is Straw Greenhorn.